Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Phillies Baseball. I am your host this evening, Austin Hamill. Joining me this week, we have Joe Marks. Joe, how's it going, man?
Hey, what's up, Austin? Hey, what's up, Philly?
And also joining us this week is Alex Reich. Alex, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. The Phillies, man, they put on quite a show this past week, winning 6 of their 7 games. Just right off the bat, guys. I'll start with you, Joe. What was your thoughts on this past week for the Phils?
Wow, the thing that we've been preaching for, praying for, hoping for is finally coming to fruition, and that is the way that they can mix in playing small situational baseball and mixing in a couple key home runs every once in a while. It's not just, playing at one side of the spectrum or the other. And you saw all of it from like 14 hits and like 3 home runs to, double steals and being okay with having the guy get thrown out at home so that the other two you kind of sacrifice 1 run for 2 potential runs. It was very interesting gameplay, but I think this is the team that we expected to always see, and the hope is that it can carry on.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a great road trip. Even though they didn't play competitive teams, it just they flat out did their job and uh, played great ball all throughout the week, and especially Saturday when the Phillies won in the 11 innings. Kyle Schwarber hit his 18th home run of the season and had a tie-breaking 2-1 double. Brendan Marsh also added um, a hit as well as Max Kepler, and the pitching looked dominant from start to finish, and they just were unlucky to get the third win out of the series on this past Sunday. But they got a big week coming up against Atlanta, and I'm really I'm really anxious to see what happens.
Yeah, the bats definitely have come alive for the Phillies. Just a quick look at the numbers for the past week. Uh, Total team batting average of 271, 12 home runs, and 41 RBI to go along with 10 stolen bases, drawing 23 walks. The offense has been really good. The pitching equally as good, even though there have been some hiccups. Uh, the full pitching staff for the Phillies totaling a total of 84 strikeouts over uh, allowing 70 hits, 26 runs scored. So I mean the both sides of the ball have been playing extremely well, and we saw that with like I said at the top here, 6 out of 7 wins on that road trip for Philadelphia. And like you were saying, Alex, even though playing to a bit of a lower competition, Oakland was actually looking like I mean, even though just pulling only one win against Philadelphia over the weekend, they do have the potential to be a solid team, but you can just tell that those pieces aren't there completely yet. And we saw full display from a lot of those young guys for Oakland throughout the weekend. Um, was there any player in particular that you guys sort of feel like deserves more recognition for the performance they had throughout the week? Alex, I'll start with you.
Alec Bohm is on top of my head. I feel like he's definitely making progress of his hitting ability since he started out slowly in the beginning of the season, and he's just getting the bat on the ball uh, more. And I just feel like he's definitely helping this Phillies team to high standards.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, was there anyone that you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, I feel like this is gonna hit the nail on the head, but it needs to be said. I feel like maybe a little bit more than a week ago, and even Ben Davis said it on the commentary this past week. Feels like almost a week ago that Bryce Harper and we were all hitting like what's happened to Bryce, and he's batting 238. Now he's up to like 280. Like this is a guy that we need to have kind of going in full throat in order to make some damage. And I agree with both of you in the sense that, yeah, we played lower teams, but you know what? You have to be who's on your schedule, number one, and to kind of also piggyback off of what you brought up, Austin, about the pitchers and the hiccups. You also got to kind of keep in mind, and I'm not making excuses necessarily. I'm just giving rationale behind some of the numbers. Um, those pitching numbers are maybe a little bloated only because of where they played. Coors Field, that's always a place where balls just fly out. And then you have, Sacramento, which is basically a AAA stadium. So, these guys were basically, if pitchers were making mistakes, you know, they were losing the ball over the fence, basically. So, yeah, I think that I think Bryce Harper is the guy we want him to be too. But Bryce Harper is definitely the guy that made up for a lot of concern in the past week.
Yeah, the performance that he had throughout the week has brought his batting average up to a 267 on the year, with the rest of his slash line being a 372 on base percentage and a 450 slugging. So he definitely has been getting better as especially with this week, even though, like you were saying, Joe, playing down to some lower caliber teams in both the Athletics and the Rockies, but having to be pretty much spot on and being able to make a lot of the pitchers pay for their mistakes with really solid performances at the plate, and Harper's really been doing that so far. Um, the player
Keep in
for me, I'm
mind,
sort of gonna
Austin, that
yeah, go
that
ahead.
everyone keep in mind, Austin, that everyone plays the same schedule. It's not as it was before. Like every team plays the same schedule. It just depends on where you play the certain teams. So
Exactly, yeah.
people like the Braves and the Dodgers will play the Athletics and will play the Rockies, but we just happen to get them first.
Yeah, exactly. And it's especially good for the confidence because of the fact that the bats did seem like they were starting to get a little bit cold last week. So to be able to get the you know, pull that 9-game win streak together through going from the end of last week into this week, and it's definitely a positive note for Philadelphia in terms of the offense trending upward now. We've already had the pitching there. And like you were saying, having to be, especially on the pitching side of things in both of the stadiums that we just played in, you had to have dang near perfect pitching to be able to get away with a lot without dealing a lot of damage. I mean, we did see Christopher Sanchez and Zach Wheeler both have complaints about the mound in Sacramento.
Mhm.
You saw with that, Christopher Sanchez giving up the 3 walks in the inning. Um, Wheeler, I mean, still having a solid performance, but you could tell there was some times where like some of his spots just seemed off, both him and Sanchez both, because they both can really, really paint the edges with a lot of their stuff, and they were just missing a lot of those like key pitches, especially in like 2-strike counts, or even just trying to get themselves back into a count being down like 2-0 or something like that, just missing a pitch that they know that they can usually hit to get back. It shows a lot of the tenacity that this Phillies team has been having throughout the entire season, being able to overcome different little adversities, playing in Coors Field where the ball travels a lot better, playing out in Sacramento where from everything that we're hearing now, the mound isn't the best, but you like to see that kind of fight from this team, and we're seeing a lot of it. And even though, you dropped the last game against Oakland, you had an absolute dogfight the night before to be able to pull out a win, like you mentioned at the top of the show, Alex. There's a lot to, especially just in this past week alone, really take away from how the Phillies have been tuning up their performance as we're starting to get to the end of this month of May into the beginning of June, starting to get close to All-Star break, getting to the end of the first half of the season. Which sort of transitions me into the next question that I have for you guys. Who on this team do you have as your MVP at this point as we're getting closer to this All-Star break and the end of the first half of the season?
Well, I got Kyle Schwarber. I think the guy is on pace. Some may say he's on pace for 50. I am almost daring the idea that he could hit 60. This is a guy that it's not just the home runs either. It's the on base, it's the walks, it's the, you know, just being a productive member of this team game in and game out. He's also a vocal leader. And I think that, sometimes gets, downplayed. But the idea that this guy doesn't just talk the talk, but walk the walk, this is a guy who I feel like, he's a candidate right now, currently, as a person who could be, winning that MVP. And if he just continues down this road, and we haven't hit June yet, boys, like this guy hasn't even hit his stride. He hasn't hit the warmer weathers. He's hitting these balls out of the yard with wind pushing it back. Now imagine what happens when that wind doesn't push it back. This guy might send it 465 feet.
Yeah, Kyle Schwarber this year, a 257 batting average, 398 on base percentage, 576 slugging, 974 OPS with 18 home runs, 40 RBIs, 41 walks, which is incredibly impressive. So proof apparent to what you had said about how he gets on base very well this year. And in the Oakland series, getting his first triple of the season. Granted, it may have been off of a bit of an obstruction call, but take that stat when you can get it for Kyle Schwarber. I mean, I 100% agree with the stuff that you were putting out there for him. I would probably dare to say Trey Turner. I mean, the defense hasn't been there as much as it could be for Trey, but the slash line of 310 average, 365 OBP, 443 slugging percentage, and 808 OPS. 23 RBIs, 42 strike. He's only struck out 42 times. Stolen 14 bases. So I mean, he's being very productive, but the numbers are there, but you don't really see it as much because it's in more sporadic bursts. But I feel like Trey Turner has definitely been, minus the defense, unfortunately, but the offense is still there for him. So hopefully the defense can sort of pick him back up in the second half of the season and make it a little bit more of a sure shot for him for getting some really valuable play. Alex, what about you? Who do you have as your MVP for the year so far?
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and it's definitely Kyle Schwarber. I had some thought about being Max Capital, but I think Kyle Schwarber is up there as the best candidate. I just feel like he's doing everything he can to make this team where they're at right now, and getting on base, his on base percentage, and getting hits day in and day out, and doing the small things every game is really making an impact. And I love what Joe mentioned about him, and I feel like he's definitely going to uh, continue to show how his hitting ability is in the upcoming series against Atlanta.
Yeah, absolutely. Kyle Schwarber's been on an absolute tear this season. I did want to take a minute to sort of touch on the pitching a little bit because we did see, the bullpen was a little bit shaky, but granted, it could have been because of the fact that, anything is possible given the way this league has been, and especially playing where you played in both Coors and Sacramento. But what are your guys' thoughts on the bullpen after some of these closer games that Philadelphia had in the past week?
Well, I mean, losing Alvarado is going to be a punch in the gut for a while. And Dabrowski has to figure out, what exactly he's going to do about it. Are you going to supplant some of the starters into the bullpen until October or even beyond? I mentioned on my show on Saturday that I'd be almost interested because when some starting pitchers go into the bullpen, they actually gain some miles on their fastball and other pitches. Aaron Nola in the last 2 years has kind of started to lose a little bit of his mileage on some of his pitches, and therefore some of those pitches flatten out and are much more hittable to the opposing team. So I think the idea may be a little bit of a hot take in some people's minds, but the idea of Aaron Nola possibly going to the bullpen, the idea of Dabrowski trading to get a proven bullpen piece, maybe the guy Matt Miller that we just faced in with the Athletics and whatnot. Like there's always a strong possibility that what you see with this bullpen, despite it actually turning around, that whatever you've seen is going to get better.
Yeah, Mason Miller is actually a very solid uh, pitcher in the league. His time with his time with Oakland hasn't been you know incredible, but he has God, where are the numbers at here? I just had them.
Anybody who can pitch 103 miles an hour consistently gets my attention. I mean,
Yeah,
I go
absolutely.
back to Adoldis Chapman and when he first came on the scene, when
Yeah,
that guy was throwing flamethrowers across the plate. I mean, I can't imagine you blink and it's gone, and like
yeah.
that's the difference.
Yeah, 3.8 strikeout to walk ratio, which the total numbers are 178 strikeouts to 47 walks over 117 innings pitched in 3 years with the Athletics. I mean, and he's also saved 40 games. So I mean, the guy is definitely a proven he has the proven capability to be a late inning guy. So it's definitely it could be a potential move that you end up trying to explore as you get closer to uh the trade deadline coming up. Um Alex, what about your thoughts? Any thoughts on the way the pitching has been?
Yeah, I think I really like how Corcoran has been pitching, as well as Romano. Them two are the top heavy of the bullpen lineup, and I just feel like they're going to be big time helps, big time help from the bullpen each and every game the next couple of months heading into the postseason. And I feel like they are definitely doing their job and having the ability to strike out uh, at the right moment.
Yeah, Jordan Romano actually in the last month, I think he's cut his ERA in half, I believe, because I think he was sitting close to 16 about a month ago, and now he's
Yeah.
down to an 8. And Kerkering so far this year, a 3.72 ERA, 17 strikeouts. So I mean, like you said, these guys they're the two guys that we really did need to step up for the back end protection for our bullpen, and they've been doing so very very well, especially in the past like I want to say three to 4 weeks. They've been incredible. Um,
Be mindful, Austin, that when a reliever has a bloated ERA of something like 16, like Romano did, it takes it longer for that
yeah,
to come down. And
yeah,
for the fact that he's cut it in half in a short amount of time just speaks to what kind of game he's been playing as of
yeah.
late.
Yeah, it speaks volumes to the capability that he has to be able to overcome that pressure and be able to still perform very well.
Mhm.
Um, I think at this point now we look forward to next week, gentlemen. Sound like a plan?
Yep.
All right. Philadelphia this upcoming week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, facing Atlanta here in Philadelphia. Start time of estimated at 6:45 p.m. Our first pitching matchup, and I sort of want to break these down one game at a time because this is a big series for Philadelphia. First game on Tuesday for Philadelphia, it's Rangers Suarez, and for Atlanta, it is Spencer Strider. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts on this pitching matchup for Tuesday night?
Well, Strider coming back. I think this is his first game back since he got hurt. So it's going to be interesting seeing if he can knock the rust off and be Spencer Strider. I mean, this is a guy. He's a talent. Yeah, as much as I don't like the Braves, he's a talent. And Ranger is still doing Ranger things where I still need to see more out of Ranger to really feel like this guy is back to the potential Cy Young candidate that he was about a year ago, about this time a year ago. But yeah, I think it's going to be a real cool pitching duel in CBP.
Yeah, just the last outing for both Suarez and Strider for you folks out there, really quick. We saw Suarez pitch against Colorado on Thursday. He went 6 2/3 innings, striking out six, allowing 6 hits, but no runs earned. Very solid performance for him against Colorado on Thursday. And Spencer Strider actually pitched on the 20th on Tuesday at
Okay.
Washington. It was his second decision of the year, which was also a loss. 4 1/3 innings, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, one of them a home run. He struck out three.
Mm,
So Strider's definitely still looking to try and get back to form, which means he could be a bit vulnerable. Which means you could probably end up running him early if you can get the bat to ball very well. Um, Alex, your thoughts on this Suarez Strider matchup for Game 1 of the Phillies Brave series?
Yeah. I'm curious to see how Spencer Strider comes into CBP with expectations from his side of things, and Richard Suarez has been pretty good in all shape and form, and I just want him to go out, limit as much as runners on base as possible, and have the ability to strike out the best hitters, uh, like Austin Riley, Acuna, um, and those two are basically the two best hitters on that team. It could be Matt Olson, but I think that Riley and Acuna are the best. But I'm just really anxious to see how this lineup does going into this series. I think it's going to be really crucial to get scoring at the start of the game, and we'll see how Rachel does.
Yeah, the Braves have lost 4 of their last 5, sitting 8.5 back from Philadelphia for the lead in the NL East. I feel like that pitching matchup is going to be very solid. Like we were saying, Ranger Suarez has been doing very well in all facets of his game. That first start now seems like a blip in the radar. Spencer Strider, he has the capability to be a very solid pitcher. He was in a lot of top pitcher conversations just 2 years ago. And, coming off of a bit of an IL stint for a hamstring injury that he had suffered, he's looking to find, ironically enough, Strider's trying to find his stride again. But I feel like he can get there. He always has been that kind of a pitcher. He's very, very in tune with what he tries to do. He's a very methodical pitcher. So, sometimes it'll take those kinds of guys a little bit longer to get back to where they want to be, but there's a very strong possibility that he could have a solid start, but it wouldn't be too bad for Philadelphia, I don't think, because I just feel like the team has been very solid this year, and having that capability of being able to get to, especially like you were saying, Alex, a team like this early in the game, every game, and be able to just really put the pressure on them to have to try and climb back, relying on those guys like the Acuñas, the Albies, the Austin Rileys, the Matt Olsons. They have a very stacked offensive lineup, and the better that you can do to get ahead of them early, especially not only on the scoreboard but in counts. The more that you can make them throw more pitches, the more vulnerable they become. Looking over to Game 2, we have Zach Wheeler going for Philadelphia and AJ Smith-Shawver going for the Atlanta Braves. Smith-Shawver's 3-2 on the year with a 3.67 ERA and 41 strikeouts. And Zach Wheeler this year is 6-1, 88 strikeouts with a 2.42 ERA. Gentlemen, I'll start with Alex on this one. Your thoughts on the Wheeler Smith-Shawver pitching matchup on Wednesday?
Zach Wheeler has been phenomenal, and I just hope that he begins the game at a higher note as he always does, and I'm curious to see how I forget how to pronounce his last name.
Smith Shawver.
Yes, Mr. Robert. I'm curious to see how he does against a high level batting lineup in the Phillies, especially it being in Philly and having the Philly fans all over him, and it should be a fun atmosphere.
Absolutely, yeah. Zach Wheeler's last start against Atlanta, he went 5 1/3, allowing 8 hits, 5 earned runs, striking out 7. Uh, Joe, what are your thoughts on the Wheeler Smith Shawver pitching matchup?
So I think it's a good matchup. I think it favors the Phillies. I think it favors Wheeler. I think Wheeler, he'll have those outings where you'll be like, well, that's not very Zach Wheeler esque. Like, what happened there? They'll have those outings. And I believe Atlanta has seen him enough times where that happens. It's going to happen more times than not because, batters are going to see your pitches. They're going to be familiar with your tendencies. And therefore, you're not going to be very mysterious to them at all when it comes down to, standing there at the plate waiting for a pitch to try and fool them. Now, it was brought up about Acuna, and I'm really curious to see how Acuna approaches his plate appearances in this series because he's just much like Strider, he's just coming off of injury list, a bad injury at that. This is a guy who can be an MVP caliber, but much like you said earlier, Austin, where we might be catching Strider when he still hasn't knocked off all the rust and he hasn't hit his stride. We're talking about an MVP caliber guy in Acuna that he may not be completely up to ramped up yet. And so someone like Ranger Suarez, someone like, Zach Wheeler, these kind of pitchers can feast off of a guy who's trying to get his, sea legs underneath him. And Acuna doesn't have those yet. So that could also be an advantage for some of the pitchers for the Phillies coming in this upcoming series.
Yeah, just a quick peek into the numbers that Ronald Acuna has had. He's only been back for a few games so far. He's 4 for 12 for a 333 average, 2 home runs, 3 RBI, and a walk, but he struck out 6 times. So I mean, he's finding his swing a little bit, but hopefully the Phillies pitching has the capability to be able to slow him down and sort of cool him off a little bit because he can get hot and he can get hot fast. Smith Shawver, his last appearance, he only went 3 innings, giving up 8 hits and 7 earned runs. So he's looking to sort of bounce himself back here against a Philadelphia lineup that, like we saw over the weekend, has just been really finding a way to get the bat to the ball and be able to get guys on base and get them moving forward no matter what they can do. To round out the series against Atlanta, the pitching matchup is Christopher Sanchez and Chris Sale. Joe, your thoughts on that pitching matchup?
Oh, that is prime time viewing.
That's a juicy pitching matchup right there.
Very much so. We've seen the Zach Wheeler Chris Sale matchup, and Zach got the best of Chris in that one. The battle of the Christophers, basically. And the idea that Christopher Sanchez is kind of rounding into kind of a top 1-2 kind of pitcher in a rotation. And so to put him against a guy like Chris Sale, I think it's going to test his patience to be able to not get in trouble early, because if you get in trouble early against Chris Sale can lock. If he gets a lead, he can lock it down. That's how good Chris Sale is.
Yeah, Chris Sale definitely has that ability to get ahead early and often in counts. I mean, the record doesn't show what he's capable of, sitting at 2-3, but he has a 3.36 ERA, 78 strikeouts. I mean, his last outing, 7-inning go, allowing 4 hits, 1 earned run, striking out 6. We did get to him a bit in the last time that we faced him. He only stuck around for 4 2/3 innings, gave up 5 earned runs on 9 hits, striking out 5. Alex, your thoughts on this pitching matchup?
Yeah, Christopher Sanchez has been dominant. Although his last outing, he was a little up and down. I know that his strike zone wasn't at par, but uh, overall, he's just been dominant in the rotation, and the Phillies expect him to be the same the rest of the way this season. And I just feel like he's got something going in him, and I'm curious to see how he does his next outing.
Yeah, that last outing in against the Athletics for Christopher Sanchez was the first one that he had in the last since the 30th of April. Actually, even before that, probably he hasn't. I think so far this season he hasn't had a single outing go under 5 innings until
Mhm.
just over the weekend here. Giving up 7 hits, 3 total runs, 2 earned, still striking out 6, but walking 3. Um, you know, granted, given that outing, I mean, he's had 2 this week, and he's pitched very well to a total of 10 2/3 innings, 13 strikeouts, 5 total earned runs. Only gave up 1 home run on 12 total hits. I mean, the guy is like Joe said, he's been proving that he has the stuff to be a top 1 or 2 starter guy in a given rotation. So I mean, you really hope that Sanchez really has that stuff again going against Atlanta, because if he happens to fall behind a little bit, they have the firepower in that lineup to be able to really tag him.
Iron sharpens iron, and I think that like when you face off against an opposing pitcher that kind of keeps you sharp, you play sharp, and I think Mick Abel kind of proved that against the Pirates, not
Yeah,
that last weekend.
yeah, having to
Like
face off against Paul Skeens.
yeah. So when you have iron sharpen iron, sometimes the pitcher like takes his game to another level because he has no choice but to. And so, it's going to be interesting to see with Chris Sale, like I said, if Sanchez can keep his strike zone consistent and not let the Braves get up on us too bad and tag him, like you said, Austin. If you give Chris Sale enough of a lead, he can lock down a lineup. He's very methodical, but the same could be true for someone like Christopher Sanchez, who has a high propensity of rolling double play balls. And with the Braves, you have a lot of players on that team that are double play candidates.
Yeah, and especially when you look at the kind of stuff that both of those guys use to really get themselves going. If Christopher Sanchez can get that changeup going,
Mhm,
Atlanta's going to be in for a really long night. And if Chris Sale can get his sweeper going,
mhm.
Philadelphia is going to have a really tough time being able to get any piece of that, because that thing, both of those pitches for those guys really move, and
This is going to
especially
be this is going to be
for
up
the
to
good
the
lefties.
yeah, this is going to be up to the bullpen. I mean, not the bullpen, the umpire at the home plate because we've seen bad umpiring behind home plate with balls and strikes. If those guys don't get strikes when they want to have those strikes on those specific pitches, if they're not getting those corners, it's going to be an interesting game. I don't want the umps to ruin it, but I hope for them to play, have a good strike zone.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be that, especially to round out that series on a Thursday night, is going
Hmm.
to be a really really solid pitching duel to be able to see. Uh, And then to round out the week, Philadelphia hosts the Milwaukee Brewers. The pitching matchups for that so far that have been announced are for Friday night, Taiwan Walker going up against, geez, everything sort of freaked out for a quick second there. Going up against Quinn Priester. The Phillies have announced for their Saturday matchup, Jesus Luzardo will be the starter. There is no projected starter listed currently for Milwaukee. We'll probably find out as the week progresses. And then to round out the series on Sunday afternoon, it is Ranger Suarez going onto the bump to go up to be facing on the opposite end Chad Patrick for the Milwaukee Brewers. Gentlemen, how do you feel that series is going to go? And also give me your projection for the week for Philadelphia.
Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I just feel like this is going to be another test offensively by Milwaukee. I know that Milwaukee isn't that high potential of a team this year as expected, but they got some good young players, and I'm hoping that the Phillies can make some noise throughout the series.
Yeah, Joe,
Yeah,
your
I I
thoughts?
I think Reese Hoskins coming back to Philly. It's gonna be a lot of emotions. I know he's been back since been a Brewer, but having him back is always a thrill and it's always emotional. And I feel like the Brewers. I never overlook the Brewers because it doesn't matter really what roster that they have or they put out there. Somehow against the Phillies, they always tend to make it a grind. And so for me, I think that this is going to be an interesting test, much like the Braves series, because it's going to give the Phillies a test at a team that really can kind of sneak up on them, much like the Arizona Diamondbacks does sometimes to the Phillies. Certain teams just sometimes have your number, no matter what team they dress. They sometimes have your number. Um, the Brewers have been that team from time to time, and the Diamondbacks have been that team from time to time. And you know what? With this one, I take nothing lightly. Reese is going to be on a high. That pitching rotation, they're not household names, but they've had guys that weren't household names before and would actually do pretty well. So we'll see. I mean, I would say that my week, I want to say 4-2 because honestly, you have to at least pull off both series. I know that people would love for them to start another winning streak and go another 9 in a row. I get it. But the reality is, as long as they keep winning series, they're always going to be in a good position come playoff time and come divisional race.
Yeah, and especially with going into this week facing against Atlanta, being able to open up that lead in the NL East on both them and the Mets would be exactly what you need to see Philadelphia do, especially to round out the month of May. Um,
Mhm.
like you were saying, Joe, there's Milwaukee for some reason over the past couple of years has always seemed to have had Philadelphia's number. Reese Hoskins, like you said, has been doing very well, batting 287 with an OBP of 387, slugging of 467, 7 home runs, 29 RBIs. So
Mhm.
the numbers are still there for Reese. He still has that capability to be a dangerous hitter. His defense always can back it up as well. Um, I feel like the main bright point for them, aside from Jackson Churio, who's been absolutely incredible again this year, 246, 8 homers, 28 RBIs, is second baseman Bryce Terang. He's been very dangerous at the plate this year, batting 269, 4 home runs, 22 RBIs, 5 doubles, 53 total hits, 35 runs scored.
Mhm.
If you can limit guys like Bryce Terang, Jackson Churio, Reese Hoskins, the if he's playing Christian Yelich can always be a bit of a problem for Philadelphia. The numbers are usually there for him. If you can limit those kinds of guys, there's a lot of propensity to be able to pull out at minimum 2 wins in that series. And I feel like a 4-2 week, like you said, Joe, would be, even though it may not be the picture perfect way to hope that the week goes. I feel like 4-2 is still a definite solid estimate for them with the way they've been playing. Because even if in between if you can sandwich 4 wins in between those 2 losses, you just get a
Mhm.
little bit of a momentum swing as you get to the end of this month. Anything is possible.
Yeah. I think especially when you think about you brought up about the Mets and what we could do to kind of garner some distance in the standings in the NL East. Um, the idea that The Braves at the same time, you could bury them kind of a little bit more. I mean, they've already kind of been buried, but if you remember earlier in the season where we could have done that earlier in Atlanta and we didn't. Now it's still time that you can. And I mean, they're 9 games out, I believe. And so um but behind the Phillies. And so you got to kind of think, okay, you take 2 or 3 of 3. Now all of a sudden they're 10, 11 or 12 games back. And now all of a sudden, the season's not over, but it makes your uphill climb even harder and harder and harder. Milwaukee, on the other hand, they're a team that still needs to prove that they can make it into the wild card. We've all talked about how the NL West is going to have going to at least have one wild card team, if not two. And so if you're the NL Central, it's going to be a race to either the division or trying to hope that you can outduel a NL West team that might be priming game. Um, I know that the NL East could have the Mets and the Phillies. Um, I'm still not convinced that the Mets are who they say they are. And I'm not convinced that the Braves are full and are up to full speed um, to be able to carry the day to get to the playoffs. So yeah, I think it's wishful to say 6-0, but I think 4-2 is realistic. And against these two teams, it doesn't matter how you shake it out with 4-2. If you can do a 4-2 on this 6 game stretch, you're carrying a little bit more water going forward in the schedule because you're already the best team in Major League Baseball currently.
Yeah, absolutely. And any opportunity to be able to open up that division lead a little bit more against a team that's in the top three is always a plus to be able to have going through the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But folks, with that, I think it's about time that we wrap this one on up. We appreciate you all coming out and spending time with us here. Alex, Joe, we'll start with you, Alex. Is where would people be able to find you if they wanted to be able to catch more content that you're doing?
Yeah, people can follow me at AlexRich123 on Twitter. I have a football, basketball, and baseball podcast at Dugout Report, at Blitz Take 123, and at Hoop Talk Fanatics.
Joe, where would people be able to find you?
So on X, you can find me at Joe Wolf 112680. And you can find me here on Hardcore Sports Network on Fridays with Fly Like an Eagle with Mitch Kofsky and James Scorza. And you can find me on Hardcore Sports Network again on Saturday morning with the Patterson Ave Sports Show with James Scorza and myself. We got a really special guest coming up that we'll be interviewing, and it's going to be must see. So please tune in at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning.
Yeah, and with that, we appreciate you all joining us. You all have a good rest of your week. We will see you next Monday. Go Phils.
Go Phils.